Good morning, everybody, and it's Friday morning, March 11th, and believe it or not, we spent a whole week here so far, and still getting along pretty good. Morning, Senator Polina. So the committee is all here, and we have Linda Lehman, our very able secretary, clerk, and Michael O'Grady. And Michael remember we wrote had Michael write a letter to the FSIS on the on-farm slaughter. And he got a response back, and it was kind of I think it was like a second-handed response, but I'll have Michael go into detail and what he got back, and then we should talk about with Michael where to proceed and how to proceed forward on that issue. So I guess, Michael, I'll turn it over to you, and you can go through the response you got back. And
did I send that to Linda?
It's on the webpage.
Oh,
yeah.
Great.
So rural Vermont and those folks, Norfolk, they've all, it's on the webpage, so everybody could have seen it if they looked at that.
Well, just to refresh your memory and review the process, you had received testimony from interested parties about, including the Agency of Agriculture, about FSIS potentially changing their interpretation of the personal use slaughter exception to the Federal Meat Inspection Act. You wrote a letter to them. FSIS responded and didn't really answer your questions. So I wrote an email back to them as well, asking for further clarification. During that time, interested parties had also contacted the federal congressional delegation, and the federal congressional delegation had reached out to FSIS as well. And at one point they reached out to me, and I met with representatives of the three offices. And they said that they would again confer with FSIS. Well, last week, actually it was the beginning of this week, Will Stevens from Senator Sanders' office contacted me and said they had received a response to my letter, your letter to FSIS. You have not received a response from FSIS, but the federal congressional delegation did. And that is what is up on your web page right now. It's not very optimistic. It's not, well, first, I don't know how responsive it is to your questions. And the first question that they provided an answer to, you didn't even ask. And they kind of made up the question. And then I don't think they actually clearly answered the question. But I think the takeaway is that they are interpreting the Federal Meat Inspection Act as applying only to individuals. And that raises a question if there could be multiple owners. But then they basically give an answer where, yes, there can be multiple owners, but then they say there can't be animal share agreements. And then the kicker is they say an itinerant slaughterer cannot be used to perform the slaughter under the personal use slaughter exception. An itinerant slaughterer must meet the custom slaughter requirements, which effectively require a custom slaughter facility. And so that's the general overview. I want to take you into a little bit of detail about like why this is still unclear and why I think they are kind of manufacturing the questions. So I don't know if you're on Zoom right now, Linda.
Do you want me to show
Yeah.
If you could put it up on the screen, that'd be great.
And we're live.
Yeah,
Right? It's my first time. Scenario.
yeah, that's right. Your first day back in person. Had a bad week. But you know, itinerant slaughterers, Michael, I don't even know if they have a license to work in a custom slaughterhouse.
No, they would have to go through all the federal requirements to meet the custom slaughter.
I mean,
requirements.
there's no, them saying that the itinerant slaughterer would have to do it in a custom slaughter facility. An itinerant slaughterer can't even work in a custom slaughterhouse as an itinerant slaughterer.
Okay, so can you scroll down a little bit? I'm gonna stand up because I want to point out some of these things.
I'm already not doing that.
So right here, their first response is to this question: can multiple owners of an animal slaughter that animal for personal use under the personal use exception? You never asked that question.
Is it possible that the feds were asking some of, slightly different questions that, or
But
the delegates,
no, this
like
is
our folk,
this is a response to correspondence from the state of Vermont.
Okay.
And so you asked, and then based on the Agency of Agriculture, the State Agency of Agriculture's input, whether every owner needs to be present when the animal is slaughtered. And they interpret that as, can multiple owners of an animal slaughter? And I point this out because their response is that it's not expressly allowed multiple owners under the statutory personal use exemption, right? In any case, it's improbable that multiple owners could slaughter an animal or handle the resulting products in a manner that complies. Well, I don't understand that, right? Multiple people can slaughter an animal and handle the resulting products. How is that improbable? Right? And yeah, I can see this. They've not expressly allowed multiple owners under the statutory personal use exception, except when you look at their guidance document, it references multiple owners.
Yeah.
Right? And it references that multiple owners can live at a different address than where the animal lives. So,
But I thought I read in their response that multiple owners living in the same household.
exactly. Before we even get to that, you got to move down in this same paragraph. For one, the personal use, if they say it doesn't allow multiple owners, right? But then the next sentence, for one, the personal use exemption requires all owners to be individuals. And then second, the personal use exemption requires that all owners be present. Well, that was the question you asked.
Well, what's the definition of expressly? It says has not expressly allowed.
Well, there's no definition of expressly. What they're doing here is they're referencing the fact that the Federal Meat Inspection Act says an individual. That's what they're basically referencing. But a federal
And an individual is different than a person. The person could be a
one.
right, and then a person could be like an LLC could
Right,
technically.
right. But if they're going to go strict construction of the Federal Meat Inspection Act, women cannot use the personal use exemption because it says him or his.
Could we get Leahy to have a hearing where we send Michael as our as our emissary. I just want to watch. And then
Yeah.
they can tear them apart
I
in
mean,
public. I mean, this is outrageous.
It
Get
is.
Elizabeth Warren all upset because of
Yeah.
the E and him and.
I mean, this is humiliating to the agency.
So it's humiliating to the individuals. I mean,
Yeah.
an 8th grade graduate would read that to be.
Probably a Harvard Yale person too.
Yeah, maybe else and,
So, and then the thing is, and the kicker, remember, does not allow multiple owners, but each owner, right?
so they're contradicting themselves, right?
Or they're basically talking about everyone that's using this personal use exception, each individual, right? It is just not clear what they mean here.
Yeah.
And what makes it worse is, I can't, scroll down to 2, is exactly what the chair just said. Can an animal, you asked this question, this is the one question that you actually asked. Can an animal be owned by a household or family farm for purposes of the personal use exception? Well, a household means multiple people, a family farm usually means multiple people. They say that for their interpretation, going back to Senator Parent's question, that an individual is the family farm, that it is the LLC. So it is not just an individual person, it's the LLC as well, or the household. And then in that case, multiple people can own. Because they're the individual.
But the hired, you can take the
No,
meat at your house with your family. The hired hand, a lot of them get free meat, free milk, free eggs, and rent. You can't take it to the hired man's house.
And going back to their guidance, the family farm, you don't need to live where the animals live.
Right.
Right? Family farm, we all know family farms in the state. There's multiple brothers and sisters. And sometimes they live on the same farm and sometimes they don't, but they still are part of the family farm.
Well, yeah, I mean, my grandparents, when they were alive, would raise, a couple cows or pigs or whatnot. And whenever we were over in upstate New York, we'd all end up taking home, whatever in the fall, a few this and that.
Right, and you
All
go,
14 siblings.
so under this, you can do that.
Yeah.
But above, if you're just neighbors that have, you're not a family farm, you're not part of the same household, but you might own a herd together, you don't get to qualify for this.
And weren't we hearing in Texas or something that's getting trendy to buy? Am I making this up? Were you telling us that shares are?
No, I did. So
Yeah.
I'm always looking for like different
Yeah,
things.
investments,
And
yeah.
so one of them that came across was a Facebook advertising. I don't know how legitimate it is because I didn't spend that much time on it, but theoretically it's about $2,000 a cow, you buy it, that specific one, and then when they sell it down the line, they
They're
explain
probably
their cut.
slaughtered at a facility.
They are, but you still make a return on it.
Right, that's the commodity aspect of it.
Yeah.
You're talking about like what's going on out in California. You can go to your farmer's market and buy a share of an animal, right? But they have to slaughter it underneath the custom or in an inspected facility. And I don't think anybody really has an issue with that. We went through that. We did the report, but they still answered that question, even though they specifically said in both the letter and the email, we're not asking that question.
As maddening as this is, and it really could make you crazy, and it's totally unfair, and somebody's got a PhD in how not to answer, and they've employed it here. What is involved in becoming a custom, the lowest rung slaughter facility, I mean, is that, I'm assuming it's way too onerous, but as we think about making investments in bulk tanks and stuff,
It's not
should we
too
consider-
bad, but what people have told me to do this, that cows are, and pigs too, pigs especially, more than cows. If you take them away from
Yeah, they
their
get all antsy.
home and you back up with a cattle trailer to load them,
Yeah.
they get all nerved up and they tighten up and makes the meat a lot tougher.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that's why and it's hard on them traveling because they've never traveled. And then the wait time to
Right.
get in, it's just so onerous that people don't, farmer doesn't like to do that to their animals and the buyers don't like it done to the animals because it makes the meat.
Well, the itinerant slaughters was our solution to that.
Yeah,
We have also had mobile slaughter, particularly for chicken. Was that licensed as a mobile slaughter
that went
facility?
right to the
Yeah.
farm.
Poultry is different though.
Yeah.
Poultry
We
is
couldn't do something similar.
underneath the federal poultry provisions, you can have exemptions up to 50,000 a year.
Right, which is,
So poultry is different.
anyway, sorry.
But then I was trying to find the custom slaughter facility requirements. I have it on my laptop upstairs, but I can't grab it on my iPad for some reason. But generally, it's estimated between $10,000 to $12,000 to do a custom facility. But the cost isn't necessarily the issue. It's often your site constraints, because what you need is hot and cold water, and you need a drain that can drain into an appropriate gray water septic or other approved wastewater. And so that's often what, if you're on your farm, can you run a hot water line to where you're going to do this? And can you afford and size the appropriate gray water septic? But this is the one, the Agency of Agriculture still has on its website that an itinerant slaughter can be used to conduct personal slaughter. It's still on the website. But this is saying that there really isn't anything under federal law that's an itinerant slaughter. It's basically saying you have to be a custom slaughter.
Did you ever find that in the federal law?
When we went through itinerant slaughter, we actually talked to USDA. We said, this is allowed, can we do it? And they said they weren't real happy about it, but they said, if it's sanitary, everything's conducted appropriately, they were gonna allow. And we've been approved as an equal to state for at least 10 years, with the itinerant slaughter provision in law and the statement that says an itinerant slaughter can perform slaughter under the personal use exception. So apparently it wasn't an issue enough for 10 years.
But now,
And you only asked this question because the agency came and said, FSIS says we can't use itinerant slaughters. And this is what you probably heard the most about from rural Vermont.
Well, right, that's been a major way we've tried to accommodate
I
this whole
think-
practice.
I think somebody from across the street is yanking their chain and caused this whole freaking thing.
I think there's somebody new at FSIS investigation in Iowa. That's what I think. And I think that that person has changed some of that, the interpretations at FSIS inspection.
So, what do you think our alternative is? I mean, we never got an answer from FSIS. I mean, it's all we're getting is secondhand stuff from the congressional.
Right.
So I don't even know why we should pay any attention to what the hell Bernie's office sent, because we didn't necessarily ask them the questions. We sent our letter directly to the feds.
You did.
And
You
we certainly have not received any response.
So, there's various options. I think once this becomes public, once the advocacy organizations digest it, the congressional delegation is going to get an earful. And then it will be partly about what they're going to do. So that's I think your first option. What are they going to do?
Well, I mean, surely we could convince them to try to do something.
Well, they could do something certainly in the Farm Bill that's coming up next year. You know, they could get geared up to do something there and write it in. But, I mean, with the damn supply chain all messed up, you go in most stores today and the meat counters not even half full usually. And we're trying to get people, here up in the Northeast to be self-sufficient or have ample food to eat. And here these folks are coming in the back door, telling everybody, well, it's illegal and it's not allowed, and they still won't send us a letter. The actual should be sued.
The next option, I think, is you hold your own hearing and you request that FSIS be there. They won't show up, but then you have like dark time for FSIS, right? And that's just a shame tactic. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Then press. What the press option also does is you could probably get this on NCSL's website. You could probably get this distributed to 50 states, 50 state legislatures who are like, oh, wait a minute, I've got an equal to program. We have a personal use exception. It allows multiple owners. What is going on with my program?
Could you do us a quick bit of research to figure out who's an equal to that has an itinerant? Because now you've just given me an idea. We have Leahy sits on the Ag Committee, obviously very powerful. I wouldn't be surprised to learn that there's a few more also powerful senators. And then, I mean,
It's
I
not
think
just
you're
that
right.
itinerant. There are definitely states that allow multiple owners under the personal use exception.
Well, so, I mean, more I work in this building, the more I can't take the federal government. It just makes me crazy. But
I think so, you're Republican. I know.
well, I don't know. You guys have been in charge of the federal government a lot.
Yeah, it never changes.
You
So-
got Mitch McConnell on it. You've
Yeah,
got Joe
so,
Neertz.
I
You've
mean,
got
I think
Kirsten Gillibrand,
if there was one thing
Dick
that
Durbin, Cory
would
Booker.
spark Bernie's eye when I worked for him, it was finding these coalitions of super unlikely people to address this kind of stuff. And all I'm saying is before we, go too crazy, if we could point out that this is very far-reaching ramifications, and if it is Mitch McConnell, I mean, if Leahy and Mitch McConnell call FIS in, you know, I mean, that's a big
They
deal.
got Amy Klobuchar, they got it.
What's that equal to, or that's the committee?
That's US Senate Agriculture, right?
Yeah, but the question is,
Gillibrand's no slouch.
Gillibrand, you got Joni Ernst.
but you gotta
Sherrod
figure out
Brown,
if their states are threatened in the same way of this equal to thing.
Chuck Grassley.
Yeah, I mean, no, obviously the committee's loaded with powerful people, but I'm saying if they're, you know, if, it just seems like the Farm Bureau, whatever it is, if we could help them see this coalition potential, then it's not Leahy and Sanders kind of knock on their door. It's just quite different. I don't know.
Yeah, you got Leahy and McConnell, I mean, that's
So,
100.
But we need to know that Kentucky is threatened. That's my.
Well, I can tell you Florida, Ohio,
Sherrod Brown's on this.
there's one other big one, California.
they all do.
They all have multiple owners.
So if you could check that out, or have somebody
Sure.
check that out for us, Michael.
The chairwoman from Michigan, just for your information, the ranking member from.
Yeah, I'll look at the committee and figure out.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.
Yeah, see you later.
But you're right, I mean,
Look, I mean,
Yeah.
it's one thing for Leahy to write a letter. It's quite another for, you know, majority.
3 or 4 others,
minority leader.
well, if Gillibrand can talk to Schumer,
Yeah.
we literally have the majority of minority
California
leaders.
is under threat from this. Suddenly the Biden administration.
Cares.
Yeah, that, I couldn't believe when I read that one and that.
Michael, it's funny, I think just because he's standing, it's animated, it's so nice.
Well, it's more fun because like we've been used to looking at it on the screen for 2 years, so it's like.
Yeah, Michael likes doing this.
Yeah, no, this is.
Some
it really
different
is.
where he's headed. So, we actually probably should have had, Nelson and Ruben on in today, to listen to this, but
They can watch
hopefully.
it.
Pardon?
They can watch it on YouTube.
Yeah, hopefully they're listening and taking this in to some degree, so, you know, we can get some support to move forward, you know, outside the building. I think most of our colleagues support people being able to do animal share. I mean, what family's gonna buy a whole lamb?
Right.
This day.
It's a good left-right issue, actually, because it's sort of a, you know, free market and.
Yeah.
You know, it's a clearly local food, there's climate, you know, on and on and on. But, you know, there are safety concerns too. We can't-
Well, you gotta cover that, but
But we haven't had any reports, right?
not to my knowledge, have never had a negative or a bad report. Never had a report of anybody getting sick. But, you know, those inspectors snoop around but not even a report back from them that it's been mistreated and not, the rules not followed. And the legislature is the ones that promoted the itinerant slaughter because we felt that it would be more humane for the animal if you had somebody that does that often. So we're the ones that pushed that back and it was allowed.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't get we get the standard pushback from the agency, but they didn't say that we lose our equal to and the feds have never said anything about it until we just started talking about expanding the numbers. So I guess maybe we should have kept we thought we were.
Well, but the state was already moving, you know, they were already shutting it down, so I don't. I don't think we've changed. I don't know, I've been wondering that question. We've stepped in.
Rural Vermont, came and asked about expanding those numbers, which everything's been going good up to this point. Why not expand it if the market's there?
Yep.
Let these guys do a couple more beef and we'll get into this one. So, well, Michael will chase those other states down and see, next week, we got some stuff on the schedule, you got funded?
Just one, the mosquito districts.
Oh, yeah, they're
But
coming in.
would you like me to get Nova Vermont and Rural Vermont in on Tuesday?
Well, hopefully Michael might have some of that information by then,
Thank you.
All that. I wonder that when you call them, you can tell them that letters on the, and see if, see if they want it.
Okay.
Yeah. And, so anyways, we'll plow into, if Michael's got some info for us.
Is there a slaughter kind of happens year round, right? Is it more to the fall? Like, I know McDonald is always fattening up his cows. in the fall,
Yeah,
but-
it's a lot in the fall, but they get backed up,
Yeah,
and that's a pretty big problem. But, like the one up toward New Ferrisburg, or, he runs year round, with Carl. One down in Bethel, Royalton, year round, but
Just was trying to-
they're busy.
to the extent that this is urgent, we need some resolution, I should think. I mean, as soon as possible, but we don't want to, let's say, wait till January.
Oh,
We want to try
no,
to
we
get.
gotta get stuff squared away. Because they'll do it anyway. I mean, that's what was going on before, and we wanted to get a handle on it before it got away from us and caused a major outbreak of some kind. And, they've done a good job. And, it's, some farms have, some chicken, they have some pork, they have some beef, have some turkeys, but, see, Paul, like some of the big ones, like Paul Stone, the turkey farm, where Mazda gets his, I mean, he has
He is a custom, so,
slaughter facility right there on the farm, and it works really pretty good, but I don't know if we have any other beef operation.
well, I mean, that is another option as we're considering like these bulk tank grants and stuff. It could be, if we got another 5-10 of those custom licenses, if it's, it's not gonna work for everybody, but it's,
The custom chicken thing,
yeah, I know that. I remember hearing that.
I don't, we got a lot of money into that trailer.
Didn't work out.
Yeah, what was the issue? Just more complicated.
Yeah, it was a very complicated, that scheduling, and it was very complicated, hard to manage that. And ended up selling the trailer.
Yep.
It's up in Glover, I think,
So it's a business now.
Well, they use it for their own animals, and.
It's their custom slaughter facility,
Works fine.
Trailer that never moves.
No, trailer never moves. You bring birds and right there, the way it goes. Anything else that
No,
need to put on, get lined up to put on the schedule?
I'll try, I haven't gotten anywhere, but I'll try to figure out some apiaries questions I'm hearing floating out there, so.
Yeah,
What kind of questions?
apiary.
Yeah,
Oh, apiary.
yeah,
for the bees.
apparently there's been
There was a few years ago, we did quite a lot on
Yeah.
bees and got going pretty good. And I guess we've lost a lot, so. Yeah, if we could get, my buddy from, Chittenden County.
yeah, what is that guy's name? He was a rep.
Yeah.
Blanking on his
We
name.
worked,
He
brought
lives down the road.
on, he and the other guy wrote the book.
Yeah.
Honors don't melt, so
Bill Maris?
Yes, that's it. Bill Mears.
Bill Mears.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, the pickup guy that stole the pickup up there and ran over the hives and,
Yeah,
those
Oh,
are
that's-
some of
yeah,
Mears's
yeah.
bees. Yeah,
So supposedly the House Ag Committee passed out a bill addressing neonicotinoids.
that's on its way over.
See, so we, just sort of thinking down the road, that's something we'll probably get.
Didn't do much to it.
I don't know.
Something we have to do it, it's the issue.
Pardon?
What's the issue we're trying to fix with that?
Neonicotinoids, that's a bee protection.
Yeah, bees and neonicotinoids don't get along together. No, we'll keep those things separate. Yeah, and the other issue on the, not the, but you remember dealing with hemp? And they said that you couldn't have hemp near cannabis because they would cross pollinate and.
Could be, yeah.
Is that, why isn't that still true?
It's, I don't know, but as far as I understand it, by the time he would put either plant into ground. Remember how you don't want males?
Yeah, you got to feed.
So even if you start from seed, as soon as you see that they're a male, you're taking it out. And so I think somebody better in genetics would tell me, but my understanding is that means that once you do that, basically any plant that is old enough to be pollinating or whatever is already female. So it doesn't blend that way.
So,
I think, so it's not like the organic and conventional side by side or that GMO issue we used to always talk about. I don't think it's like that for that reason.
see, that stuff, we haven't heard much about that corn stuff and organic and conventional.
Well, the feds took it over after our little GMO issue. The feds jumped in and then they screwed it up on purpose.
I wonder if they ever do
I mean, it does
anything.
follow the mind.
Well, if there isn't anything else,
Also,
we'll call it a morning and we should try to
Yeah,
hook up with Senator Kitchell maybe and see if we can do some work on that.
okay.
So if there isn't anything
No,
else,
what's up?
we'll adjourn. We've got to get ready to be on